Boker Tov, Shalom, Mashlomcha. So this is an interesting video for me, and anyone who watches my content, of course, whoever has taken my bait, so to speak, because to me this is rather significant things, observations that the elites who are using social media for social engineering try to water down and play down as insignificant, not worth noticing or paying attention to. But these are the things that shape society. These are the tools that the elites used to cause the culture shift, to socially engineer America into a moral decline of a hypersexualized hookup culture of drug abuse and addiction, thus lowering the birth rates, lowering the average age of puberty for girls, increasing the divorce rate, single-parent household, crime rate, incarceration rate, drug overdose rate, STD rate, etc. Demographic shift as well, and immigration. So, geez, where to begin? With that account, Bianca Fights the Zombies. His message is, Whitey's problem isn't drugs, it's blacks. So if you remove the blacks from white societies, the problems go away, but not the drugs. Now, he could be lying on the internet. Well, he is lying about a lot of things, but if his video, the last one that I saw years ago, is to be taken at face value, he smokes marijuana. And I don't know if he actually has a job or not. I think he lives off of income from the internet. So he's a grifter. He is exploiting gullible goyim, just like the Jews that he claims to hate. So I don't think he's authentically anti-Semitic. I think he's intelligent and opportunistic, and this is why he gets the shekels, the cyber shekels from his flock that he fleeces with these moronic lies. He knows the more honest and intelligent his content would be, the less successful it would be. Just like that 6 million account, the more dumb and dishonest it is, the more popular it is amongst the anti-Semitic, white nationalist, and alt-right groups, just the same as the leftist groups. Very interesting observation. But different flavors of bullshit. Anyway, but if taken at face value to be true, this would mean he is genetically superior to other whites, that he can handle his drugs where other whites can't. Now, I'm going to clip a video to this, and I will give a trigger warning, which I never do, but this is white people with drugs. There's diversity, there's blacks in these videos as well, but these are homeless white people who the statistical likelihood of marijuana being a contributing factor to their homelessness and harder drug use is very high. And yet, alt-right grifters, like Bianca Fights the Zombies, promotes marijuana use for whites and tells them that, oh, it's not your fault, it's the blacks' fault, and it's the Jews' fault. It's not your fault for consuming the drugs and the pornography, it's the Jews' fault for pushing those things, but we should keep consuming those things, which he clearly does, and promoting and disseminating those things, which he clearly does, but blame the Jews for the consequences of our choices and actions. Well, there is some truth to that. The Jews behind Snoop Dogg and the rap industry are one example, but this video isn't just an example of media influence on whites in terms of drug propaganda and porn propaganda, like Snoop Dogg, Cheech and Chong, Dave Chappelle, etc. There's other media influence, such as Peter Fonda and Easy Rider. Right, this is not rap culture. This is 1960s hippie culture. Very big promoting marijuana, anti-monogamy, anti-Christian values during the drug and sex revolution on white people. No blacks involved. So it's clearly not the truth that Bianca Fights the Zombies expresses. That's why I don't think he's authentically anti-Semitic. I think he sees an opportunity to profit off of rising anti-Semitism by exploiting gullible morons. But even beyond that, if he is smoking marijuana and it's not causing him a loss of income or obesity and diabetes and, all this negative things that it causes these homeless whites in this video, well, that means not all white men were created equal. So, hence, a hierarchy within a hierarchy. A class hierarchy within a racial hierarchy. And that means that they're genetically different, despite being the same ethnicity. And, the same geographic, regional, ancestral origin. So, this would imply that there are whites who can be exposed from childhood to this media influence of Peter Fonda, Tommy Chong, Snoop Dogg, I wonder what his real name even is, Dave Chappelle, etc., and not end up going overboard on harder drugs and homeless and on the streets and all this stuff the way these poor whites did. And I'd imagine the good genetic white stock, the superior white genes, just like every ethnicity has its, superiors and inferiors. The Africans who sold the Africans into slavery, that was a hierarchy of superiority and inferiority, for example. I imagine this is why, hierarchies form in nature all the time, but sorry, the pollen. But on top of that, this is why the Gentile monarchy exists. And so whites, like Bianca, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about, fucks over poor whites by getting them to do drugs and convincing them it's not their fault. They're not the architect of their own circumstances. They're not responsible for the downstream consequences of their own decisions and choices. It's the blacks and the Jews. Classic Freudian projection, right? Yeah. So when you watch this video, apply Bianca's thinking in your mind, right? Remove the blacks from the video and then tell me if the problem these whites have is drugs or blacks. Thank you. Oh, and another fun fact about genetics, right? Because, for example, Gustave Le Bon says that traits of a race are like the fins of a fish, unchanging throughout time. And this is why no matter where you get the black man, you get poverty. You don't get a civilization. You don't get a Wakanda. You get a Haiti. You get a Nigeria. You get a Sudan. You get a Zimbabwe, etc. And I saw that with Mexicans. Anywhere you get Mexicans, you get a culture of drugs, crime, poverty, violence, etc. Well, the funny thing about this video is these could be whites in Philadelphia or Russia or Australia, etc.
Yo, bud.
that clip, and you've imagined, oh, if we removed the blacks from the situation, those whites would still be homeless because of drugs and overdosing in the streets and whatnot. Bianca Fights the Zombies is a perfect example of middle to upper class whites fucking over middle to lower class whites, and then telling the very people they're stabbing in the back and fucking over that it's the Jews who did the things to them, that it was actually the Gentile elite, the upper hierarchy whites fuck over the lower hierarchy whites. Bianca Fights the Zombies, his cyber shekel base, his grift base, right? Hierarchy, yeah. And then as these upper class whites fuck over these lower class whites, they tell them, it was the Jews who did this. And these ones are too stupid to observe, hey, wait a minute, this guy has drugs and porn and all these videos, and he promotes drugs and pornography, but he's telling us that Jews screwed us with drugs and pornography. I'm seeing a connection here. I'm seeing a contradiction in what he says and what he does. So they're not smart enough to put that together on their own. Or his base is the white intelligence, and so they're like, I love this guy. He bullshits me exactly what I want to hear. I'm going to give him money to lie to me because it comforts me. It's really funny when I'm now thinking Bianca Fights the Zombies is controlled opposition. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Because his words seem to oppose the Jewing of white America, but his actions assist the globalist agenda implementation. The fruits of his labor, as the Christians put it. So, the homeless white people on drugs in that video, if the theory is true, would be of more inferior genetics, lower quality genes than whites that are higher in the hierarchy, both in terms of income, but success rates in other fields, other aspects of life. Bianca Fights the Zombies. I don't know if he's married or not. I don't know if he has children or not. He could be gay for all I know. I have no idea. What people say on the internet and who they are in real life don't necessarily match up. But it's really funny to me that people like that, because he's not the only one. There is a lot of opportunists who are exploiting the vulnerability and the gullibility of the white race by telling them, oh yes, we're the master race. That's why you have to give me money to lie to you. Pay me to blame the Jews. Oh. I like this guy. If it's the Jews, then it's not my fault. Here you go. My own circumstances aren't my fault. I'm the master race. But I digress. Sorry, I made myself laugh. So if he's right about diversity, ethnic diversity, and demographic shifts having a corrosive, destructive influence on white America, which I think he is right. I think there is a significant element of truth to that statement. But death is transformation. So white America is being destroyed, but transformed into culturally diverse, ethnically diverse America, just like Europe and all the white countries. If this agenda is to be implemented, which it's been being implemented for decades now, this would require some sort of methods to psychologically compromise white people to accept it without fighting. Snoop Dogg, Cheech and Chong, Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, Hunter S. Thompson, Ken Kesey, Dave Chappelle, marijuana, all these things psychologically manipulate and make people malleable. They're social control mechanisms, they're social engineering tools, media. So once again, his actions contradict his words. Not only does it have a mentally handicapping effect and make people more susceptible to psychological, manipulation, more psychologically malleable, but it really helps these agendas be implemented without resistance. In the 1960s, when marijuana use was much lower than it is now in the 1950s, pre-drug and sex revolution, desegregation was resisted to the point where it had to be enforced at gunpoint. Your roommate's awake. So just real quick, so I really need to get back to studying, but this I always found profoundly curious. In 1930s Germany, 1930s Germany, there was a violent reaction against pornography. What books did the Nazis burn? In the 1960s, there was not a violent reaction to pornography. What happened between here and here? Hollywood. The drug and sex revolution, marijuana culture. Since then, there hasn't been a violent reaction on as large of a scale, at the very least, to pornography, all the way up till 2024. Marijuana culture in the United States, it did kind of pre-exist, but not as much, really started in the 1960s and has increased with the increase in cannabis consumption because of Hollywood strategically using Snoop Dogg, Cheech and Chong, Peter Fonda, etc. as, marijuana product placement, drug propaganda, porn propaganda. It's made people more psychologically malleable and therefore unable to resist mass immigration, demographic shifts, etc. Gay marriage, LGBTQ acceptance, all these things were socially engineered by the architects of culture, the engineers of cool, through social control mechanisms like drugs, movies, media, pornography, etc. Hence, marijuana is a smaller part of a larger plan, part of the globalist agenda implementation. And so it cracks me up to hear white supremacists and undoubtedly black supremacists, etc., express that they are against the globalist agenda implementation, but then also promote and post marijuana and soft pornography, etc. And that includes conservatives. But then for me, that begs the question, are the elites, do they have to push it that aggressively? Or do the white Christian goyim and, the non-Jews are Jews as well? Because Jews are clearly also susceptible to media manipulation by the elites. Are they a bunch of drugged out perverts anyway, even without the presence of Hollywood and social engineering through media, etc.? And so all the elites are doing are simply, what can you blame us? They're going to do it anyway. So that in itself, very interesting detail. Why was desegregation violently resisted here in the 1950s, but not here? Marijuana culture is at the core of the, race mixing culture, the desegregation, the ethnic diversity, marijuana. So when Bianca fights the zombies, Griff's gullible goyim into giving him cyber shekels to blame the Jews, if he's right. And Jews, like Leo Racoma and Lou Adler and Heller and Kenner and all those ones. It's Ashkenazi Jews and, Southern California, rap, Hollywood, etc. promoted race mixing, the white genocide. There was marijuana in all that stuff. Interracial porn, promoted by the same Jews, right? Basically. I guarantee you dig deep enough. Also a huge marijuana history. The marijuana industry and the porn industry. Google it. They have a very proud history of interconnect. They're like Miracle Grow for each other, those two industries, drugs and porn. Marijuana specifically in porn. So why is he saying, the Jews are promoting race mixing with drugs and porn, but then he promotes drugs and porn? Very same thing that caused the thing he opposes, he promotes. Right? Marijuana was a tool for social engineering, social control mechanism. The guy who pretends to oppose it is grifting by promoting it. Another aspect I forgot in my analysis. It's very likely as well that these upper class whites who screw these lower class whites and exploit them and then blame the Jews were not exposed, were raised in a home that did not have Cheech and Chong and Snoop Dogg and, low income, low class media on their televisions. It's very likely that people like that were raised. Essentially what I'm saying is it's not just nature, it's nurture. It's both. I forgot to add that. But it's really funny that it works. These the homeless white people on drugs in that video clip are the same as the trailer trash conservatives, trailer trash liberals, trailer trash Jews, trailer trash Nazis, etc., etc., etc. Oh yeah, just one more observation. It cracks me up that Ashkenazi Jew, God's chosen people, looked at Poop Dog and said, "Oy vey, he's murdering his own kind and pushing drugs and crime and violence and promoting drugs and pornography, right? Rape and anti-monogamous messages. A man after my own heart. I gotta fund this guy's message and broadcast it to the masses." And then Bianca fights the zombies, the white upper class grifter, the more aggressive parasite, even more aggressively parasitic than the Jew, is thinking, yes, I agree with all those things, just remove the black part.